all want to make money by doing something we love. If you could turn your hobby into your job, you'd never work a day in your life, right? Welcome to Hobby Hustle, the ultimate podcast where collecting passion and business collide. Now, here's your host, Zach Nigett.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 3 of Hobby Hustle. I'm your host, Zach Nigett, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch. I hope you'll enjoy our discussion today. Today's guest is a wife, a mother of 2, a former middle school English teacher who has turned her passion for collecting into a full-time business. When she's not doing the mom thing or adding to her collection of baseball and Star Wars cards, she's running an extremely successful breaking business, MamaBreaks. She's worked with some of the biggest brands in the hobby, including eBay, Whatnot, Fanatics, and more. And she even has her own Topps card. You can find her on social media at MamaBreaks or her website, mamabreakscards.live. I'm honored to welcome a friend, kick-ass mom, all-around great person, and successful businesswoman, Stephanie Garcia, to the show. Stephanie, what is going on? How are you today?
I'm great, Zach. And let me just say thank you so much for that incredible introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you're an incredible person, and we're just really happy to have you on the show. So thanks for taking time to talk with me and our audience. So you have a pretty unique story as far as, obviously being a mom, a woman, being a middle school teacher, and now you've transitioned into full-time sort of hobby businesswoman. Can you tell us a little bit more about sort of your background story? Like, where'd you grow up? And maybe how did your childhood impact, who and where you are today?
Thank you. That's a great question. I don't get it asked that way too much, but again, thank you. I still can't believe that this is what I do. If you asked me 10 years ago, even if you asked me as a kid that I would be, selling cards as an adult, I always tell everyone I would make my 8-year-old self pretty giddy and pretty happy for her to know that this is what I'm doing as an adult, and having a beautiful family with all of that too is just a complete blessing. But I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I'm first generation Mexican and Salvadorian American. So I'm both Mexican and Central American. I grew up, two teen parents in South Central Los Angeles, and I didn't really grow up around collecting a lot. Sports were a big thing for my dad, obviously. He loved soccer. He wanted me to play soccer. He watched Mia Hamm together. My dad also loved Star Wars, so I loved Star Wars growing up. My parents, actually, I've never said this on any other stream before, but it's just my story. My parents separated when I was about 8 years old. And I remember one of my best memories with my dad throughout my life is just every time, we really hung out with him growing up, we always went to watch a Star Wars movie.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah, I grew up, I'm a Star Wars geek for sure. Like, I will be true to the original trilogy for life, even though the other stuff's really cool and I like it. But, yeah. No, that's really cool. So growing up in LA, I do know that you're a huge Dodgers fan. Yeah. But are you into the other LA teams as well, or is it really just baseball and Dodgers is your jam?
Yeah. So when 9 years old, I met my stepdad, and that's the very first baseball game I ever went to. He took me to my first baseball game at Dodger Stadium against the Diamondbacks. It was probably the best experience I've ever had at that point.
That's awesome.
Baseball games are beautiful. We went to a batting practice. I'll never forget. Diamondback player threw the practice ball to me in the stands in right pavilion, and I fell in love. Sean Green hit a couple of home runs that game. He was probably my first favorite player, and I never, after that, just was obsessed. I fell in love with baseball. All I wanted to do was watch it. All I wanted to do was go to games, and that was a big part of my growing up. It's just watching baseball with my stepdad, and I was really into Pokemon. I've always really been a collector my entire life. As a kid, I collected Pogs, Jacks.
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit of like how we grew up in the 90s. And Pokemon was obviously huge. I was really into Pokemon cards. I was really into Yu-Gi-Oh! And Digimon too. So as I grew older, that kind of stuff became like more for kids, right? My brother started doing it. My younger brother gave him all my cards. And now in high school, I'll never forget the first pack of baseball cards I ever opened was 2008 Update, which happened to be Clayton Kershaw's rookie card. I didn't know what rookie cards were, that like you had to save them and stuff like that. I wish I did, but I kind of just like looked for the Dodgers and put them in my binder and saved them at home in a shoebox. And that was pretty much it for my collecting journey at that point. Like I said, I collected other things, but I never knew that the card space was this vast. I didn't know that people set up at card shows. I didn't really even know that card shops existed, honestly. You don't find those in inner city Los Angeles. Even to this day, we don't have card shops in inner city Los Angeles. So that's something hopefully I can change one day. But once COVID hit, I was a teacher. So we were essentially starting to teach from home. And I had a little bit more. I was pregnant and I had a 1-year-old. And I was like, okay, getting into cards as an adult seems pretty fun. Let me look into this. I was going to Walmart trying to get blasters, waiting in line.
Yeah.
I tell everybody this story. I was waiting in line at Target, just pregnant with a 1-year-old in a sling, trying to get some select football blasters.
Well, hopefully they were nice to you and they gave you like the mom card, help you get something.
No, it was one per person. So I was like, I get 3, right? I have one in here. Seriously, people would take their whole families. It was a ridiculous thing. Honestly, looking back to that time, it was wild, but it really, really made me fall in love with cards. Just looking up the different parallels, and I was obsessed. I still am to this day. I'm obsessed.
Well, I think that's awesome. So I know you just said that you sort of like, refound this as an adult in 2020 COVID, like a lot of us did. I did the same thing. I grew up, late 80s, early 90s, collecting, loved it. It was everything for me. And then as high school hit and sports became more a priority, I sort of lost track and then got back into it with COVID. But have you collected that entire time from when you were a kid to now, or did you take a break too? And then, like you said, sort of found it again as an adult?
Oh yeah, I mean, on and off through my adulthood. So I think like the last pack of cards I really collected was like my junior year of high school.
Okay.
Then you go through that like phase where you're like getting ready for college and stuff. I didn't really do cards, but I did, I had a little Funko Pop collection. I was into comics for a while. I really love Marvel. So just definitely doing having the collecting bug and kind of scratching that itch throughout adulthood. But it wasn't really until COVID that I was like, okay, let's call it on cards.
Totally. And you're to your point, like the collecting bug, that collecting DNA, it's like, it's in our blood, right? Like I'm with you. Like I'm into the Funko Pops and I like the comics and the magazines, and it's cool because there's just so many different ways you can go with collecting. Obviously, you've built a business around sports cards, which is amazing. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but it truly is, collecting is so cool as a passion because it can just go in so many different directions for people.
There's so many different things that you can collect. That's incredible. And the best part of it is every single one of those collectors groups or categories, whatever you want to call it, has an amazing community behind it.
Yeah.
Like I when I first started getting into this, I really tried to get my brother back in. My brother was big in Yu-Gi-Oh! I remember like us growing up, that was just a thing for years. So I was like, okay, let me get him back into this with me. He's over it. He says he's done. But what he does do is plants.
Okay.
Now, cool. This man, my little brother, who's an adult already, but he has the biggest plant collection. And he said there's an entire community around it. Like they do fire sales for like plants and roots. It's like we really don't understand. This is a niche to us, but there's so many other different little niches out there on Facebook and stuff like that. It's fascinating.
Yeah, that's awesome. So is it like a species chasing thing, or like what do you know, like what he sort of goes after?
Essentially. Yeah, just like cool. They all look different, and there's some that grow to a bigger size, and like the way that you kind of can make money in that, which is just his hobby he doesn't really do. Totally. But you'll buy a root for $200, and if you grow it to like its maximum potential, it could become a $1,200 plant or something.
That's awesome.
You have to be extremely like intricate, and he has like a makeshift green room in his apartment.
I love it.
Built.
Yeah.
So it's like crazy.
That's so cool. Hey, if the sports card thing goes sideways, you can always go to plant flipping.
There you go. Mama
That's
plant.
awesome. That's cool. You talked about, like how when you were younger, it was pogs and jacks and marbles and you did open up some baseball and stuff. Can you talk to us a little bit about how your collection has evolved, from those early days into sort of what you're into today?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've always been attracted to just things that look beautiful, right? Like I don't consider myself an artist, but I remember in high school, I had like maybe every piece of my wall covered in a piece of newspaper or magazine cutout. and that I enjoyed. So I really love music too. So vinyl records is something I enjoy, and just really, I think picking and keeping a lot of the stuff that I love and I connect to and makes me feel nostalgic and I connect to in any way. So I think I still try to keep that mindset with my collection today. I definitely get out of hand sometimes, that you like
I
you
think
can
that
get
happens to all of us, Stephanie. It's not just you.
you get out of hand and you're like, I like everything because it is really easy to fall in love with everything, especially in a set like the new shiny thing. But I think lately I've been trying to consolidate into like more just autographs, sets that make me feel nostalgic, iconic sets and stuff like that. So um, definitely focusing on autographs and a lot of like my favorite characters in Star Wars and my favorite players in baseball. So
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Well, so it started with a small collection. It's obviously grown over the years, which is cool. But something else that's really grown is your brand. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of that MamaBreaks brand and what does that represent to you?
oh, so when I started MamaBreaks, it was because I told this story the other day on my stream. It was because I started joining breaks in a room. Shout out to Bomb Breaks. Shout out to everybody that was in that room. I actually had somebody uh, message me the other day and said, "Look at us." I said, "I know. Look at us. This is where it all started in that room that we used to join breaks every Tuesday on Friday night." And my username was like a really weird name, and the breaker never knew how to pronounce it. And I was like, I gotta change my name. And I was like, oh. And at that point, I had really, really talked about my husband about doing breaks myself. It was actually his idea. He's like, you would be really good at that. Also, you're obsessed with it. So
That's
he's
all.
like,
That's a good first sign, right?
yeah, he's like, he was very supportive from the start. He thought I was crazy. I mean, he still does, but anywho, I said, okay, I need to make like my card page, I guess, keep it separate from the personal. Because I was starting to get followed by like a bunch of card people too on my personal. I was like, I don't know if I want you guys looking at my personal life stuff, but then it was just a mama breaks. That's it. At that point, a lot has happened in my life when it comes to like, struggling to have my babies and my kids and being super grateful to be a mother. It's the greatest gifts that I have today. And I just thought I'm starting my collection so that I can share something with my boys. So I'm Mama Breaks.
That's
So yeah.
awesome. That's
And
awesome. Well,
since
you've
then,
done an amazing job. And watching from afar, I mean, I know you and I interact at hobby events and stuff like that, and we'll message on Instagram and things. But you've done an incredible job going from this smaller business into something large with a company that is a full-time job and having employees. So major props to you, Stephanie. I think that's really cool. So speaking about like creating this brand, right? Like part of your success has been building this community, right? And you mentioned that like the community is a great part of it. So can you tell us a little bit about the importance of community and sort of how you've gone about building yours?
yeah, community is everything. I tell my team all the time that, this stuff gets hard like any business. There's fires to put out every day. But as long as we're focused on what matters most, and that's making the people that support us happy and, giving them space to come and enjoy themselves and relax and enjoy their hobbies and meet other people that enjoy the same things they do. I mean, that's what we're doing. That's what makes us happy. That's what drives us. That's what drives us to be the best. So our business is serving our community. And I think, and I tell this to everyone, I think you need to have a community, especially for breaking, because as a breaker, you're a facilitator for the community. And like I said, you want people to feel happy and welcome when they're there. But the easiest thing that you can start doing to build a community is just be consistent. You cannot build a community and go live every now and then, whenever you want to. It's just like we break 6 days a week, no matter what. No matter what.
Yeah.
I break Star Wars every Friday. I've broken Star Wars every Friday. I've maybe missed 2 or 3 due to like big shows for 2 years. That's my Star Wars card community. And it's because I show up every Friday.
Yeah.
So that's like as simple as that, showing up.
Yep. I think that's great advice. Consistency is obviously huge. And I think that's something that, you hear echoed from a ton of people who are content creators, influencers, whatever you want to call, label, yourself and that whole crew. But it's great to see. And I think that obviously you have a very warm, loving, welcoming personality. And I think that helps too, like obviously consistency is part of it, but you and who you are part of that secret sauce. And I think it's just awesome with what you're doing.
Thank you. I've been really grateful to have the opportunity to build in a way that I'm very comfortable building.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when it comes to breaking, it could, like I said, it could get hard. And there's like a scarcity mindset that can hold you back in some sense. I've been really, really focused on making sure that I'm coming into this with an abundance mentality. Like, hey, it's for the people, giveaways and all this. And, maybe the margin's not great right now and I'm not making money right now, but if I'm building community the right way, if I'm doing things the right way, all that will come in time. And that's always been the mindset. It will continue to be the mindset moving forward. And that just allows me to be very, very present, very enjoying what I do still and enjoying the people, like I said, that enjoying the people that support me and trying to come from a very place of serving. So even when things do get hard and I get negative comments or I do get this or that, what brings me confidence and like ability to like emit warmth, I guess, is knowing that I'm waking up every morning to serve the people that I enjoy.
Totally. Yeah. Those are your people. That's your community. And I think that sort of gets overlooked. There's a lot of chatter, obviously, with Fanatics coming into play and obviously Whatnot's been around and IG, but breaking in general, I think has like a negative connotation in some respects to certain people, but it's all about personality, right? Like you have your community because of you and that's your people and people show up because of you and the next person will do it maybe totally different. And those people gravitate towards them because they're into that style and that personality. And so I think, if people aren't as familiar with that, it's cool to jump on some of these services and platforms and check out a lot of different streams. Obviously check you out, at your MamaBreaks breaks. And I'll give you the shameless plug. MamaBreaksCards.live is where you can find Stephanie for her website to buy into those. But that's important to open up that, those doors and the diversity of people who are breaking. And I think that's really cool. You had mentioned that you'll do giveaways and things like that aren't always great for the return on investment from a dollar standpoint, but that helps build confidence and want people to stick around. Do you have any other sort of strategies or tips that you could recommend for, people trying to break into the breaking business?
So definitely it's a focus on community and consistency and just really figuring out every day, what can I do to make the experience better for my client? One thing that I don't like about breaking is that I can't control what comes out of the boxes. It's not like make the customer happy all the time is not really easy for us because we can't control what comes out of the boxes. People will pay big for a spot and get nothing in return. And that's a very difficult thing that we as breakers have to deal with. It's like, okay, well, how do we make that client happy and wanting to come back? And I think you should always be thinking of different ways that you can add value. So one of the ways that we do is building a community, making sure they have a place where they can buy, sell, trade their cards. I buy a lot of cards back. That's a big part of it. We do some Galaxy packs now. I have these where you could
check those out. Look at how cool that artwork is. That's awesome.
These like carefully curated like collections. If somebody wants to get in for the first time and learn a little bit about it, that's a really great way to learn. It's just watching one of those break. Being able to teach, I think, is a big value add that I try to do as much as possible. And content.
Yeah.
Content.
Totally. You've really been up in your content game. It's fun to watch. I know your YouTube channel is growing.
Content adds value. You are essentially giving people free advice, free tips, free entertainment, and as much find out as many things as possible that you can give for free.
Yeah.
That should always be your mindset, and you will do great. And not only that, content is like two birds with one stone. It builds trust and credibility. Trust is so important with breaking and what we do, especially all the negative things that happen. It's when people see you face to face and you're able to talk to someone vulnerably and tell them hey, this is who I am. This is who I was. This is what I'm trying to build. That nobody takes away from you. That sets you apart from everyone else. And it's really hard to do it's really hard to be yourself on camera and put yourself out there because you open yourself up to scrutiny and all these other things. But just again, when you know in your heart that that's where you're leading from, doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, big time. And I think that's great advice too, right? Like you've got to have some thick skin, or at least the ability to tune people out, because the internet, for all of its wonderful, amazing things that it provides, also provides, the grounds for people to be a keyboard warrior and say some really nasty stuff and not really have repercussions that they probably wouldn't say to your face. So I think that's important, just keep it in perspective. And I think that's really awesome. You'd mentioned, you brought up education, giving back, things like that. I know that, a kids program and doing things for kids have been really important and part of sort of that MamaBreaks DNA. Talk to us a little bit about sort of some of the things you've done and maybe anything else that you have planned specific to kids and, building new collectors.
Yeah, 100%. So the kids thing is something I started way back when I was doing shows at the Union Marketplace like 2.5 years ago or so. I just, was a teacher at the time. And as a teacher, I was the one that always loved doing field trips and doing like lunch clubs and after school programs. I just really loved hanging out with the kids. And like I said, serving the community that's supporting me in so many ways. So I thought, okay, let me do a scavenger hunt at a show that I set up at. So essentially it was like a whole idea where they learn separate things from vendors. And that's kind of like getting vendors on board with interacting with kids and stuff. And I was really lucky to have the opportunity to do an entire kids trade day that we came up with at the Burbank Card Show at 3 of them. So we did it 1, 2, 3. Anaheim was the last one. That one was huge. We gave away over 500 goodie bags. We did one-on-one sketch card painting. We had giveaways. We had the influencers and the YouTubers come talk to the kids and give stuff away. And it was so exciting. And it makes me so happy to see the kids enjoying the hobby. And really the overlying thing, I know it sounds like I'm doing something like things for kids, but it's really what really brings me joy is having the parents have the ability to share something with their kids, because that's exactly where I'm at with all. This is why I started all of this.
Yeah.
It's like, I think a pain point for parents is figuring out, how do I spend more quality time with my kids? And I think as parents, sometimes we feel like, oh, but I hate watching Bluey for 3 hours. Like, I don't know if I can do that with my kid. But it's like, no, you can do things that you genuinely enjoy.
Yeah.
And take your kids with you. So I think that's so important. Like, there's a bunch of dudes in this hobby that are always like, oh yeah, my wife hates that I do cards. How many times do you hear that? Yeah, I hear that so much.
Yeah.
Well, just you know what? It's up to us and these industries, these companies, in this industry to provide more outlets for family men to involve their wives and involve their kids.
Yep.
So he goes, hey, babe, I'm gonna go to the Burbank Card Show. She's like, no, you're not. And he goes, what? I'm gonna take the kids to this, trade date thing.
Yeah,
cool. It's a lot more of a family-centered, fun thing. So that's where my mind was at on that, and I had the opportunity to do them a couple of times, and didn't work out this past time, but we're working on kicking that off again pretty soon. So
that's awesome. Well, no, I do think it's important to make it a family thing. My daughter and son are teenagers now. And so finding things to connect with them and spend time with them is tough, besides just, being a glorified Uber driver to and from practices and friends' houses. But, my son specifically has really gotten into, it started out with Pokemon and now it's getting more into sports cards and stuff, but he's also a huge sneakerhead. So it's been fun to again, talking about that range of collecting, he'll text me and say, hey dad, can we go to this show or can we go to this shop? And, I just try to encourage that in any sort of way I can. Cause like you said, even if it's not something that you're totally passionate about, it's a way for you to connect with your kids as a parent. And that is invaluable in whatever they want to do to spend time together is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And then I tell people all the time, that's why, although people say oh, I wish my daughter liked sports, take her to the games. That's how I fell in love with sports. Going to the live games, hanging out with my dad. I guarantee you that they want to hang out with you more than they want to actually enjoy the game, but they will begin to enjoy the game by default because they associate those good memories with that. So
totally. Well, the work you're doing and have done with kids is awesome. And so I'm excited to see, where that's going to progress in the future. So job well done. But I know that all of this stuff, you mentioned you did a ton of giveaways, and you collab with some of these big influencers and YouTubers and stuff. And a part of that obviously is sort of partnerships, sponsorships. You've worked with some of the biggest in the industry, the Whatnots, the eBays, Fanatics. Can you share with us some insight about how those opportunities came about, or how you found those, and sort of the importance of them?
I mean, I'm so grateful for all these opportunities that I've had, first of all. And I try to think a lot about like why these came to fruition. And one thing that keeps coming back to me is just, it's again, we're going to come back to this, like consistency.
Totally.
It's consistently posting online and putting myself out there and being top of mind. Like I am consistently on your Instagram feed, on your TikTok feed. And that's just, when you're top of mind for businesses, for individuals, that's like the first place you start. And then actually going to events in person to network and meet people, going to the National, going to Atlanta Culture Collision is probably like the two that I feel like I've gone to where I've met the most people. And you never know what person you're going to meet and what that meeting's going to turn into. And that's just been a series of just like go, go, go. So definitely showing up online consistently and always showing up to networking events as much as possible, as much as your business allows, but recognizing that that's very important, and just coming again from that place, like, how can I help you? I love these companies that I've worked with.
Yeah.
I know people see them as like a company overall, but I don't see Fanatics Live as Fanatics Live. I see Fanatics Live as Joe, Julie, Gavin, like those incredible people that make it what it is, that are working so hard every day to support sellers and support the collectors that join the app. If you talk to them, they're passionate about what they do. They're passionate about making the app the best app there is. When I think of sports card investor, I think of Jeff, but I think of all of you. I think of, Kelly and everything that she does, and just the incredible people that make these organizations, these companies, is what I focus on. And however I can help you continue doing the amazing things that you're doing for the industry, I think would only help me in return. And that's what it's been. I'm so excited to continue to do more collaborations in the future. And yeah, haven't even started, I don't feel.
I think that's awesome. And I think a really important thing is so much of the community right now is online. But to your point, like getting out there, right? Interacting with people in person. And it doesn't have to be, the show's obviously, the National's the biggest in the world. Culture Collision's an amazing show. Ralph and his team do a great job. But even if it's your local show, like you said, you never know who's going to be there. Like you meet a dealer, you meet another collector, and who knows where those doors go. But just continuing to build those relationships and network, that's a great tip for people to get out there to try to continue to grow and evolve, whatever their desires are. Like I said, just building their collection or making this into a full-time business like you have. That's really, really cool. So I'm just curious, we've talked about so much of your success, which has come pretty quick. Like I think you started full-time summer 2022. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So within a couple of years, you've gone from, humble beginnings into what you have today, but that's not always easy. So I'm curious if you could talk and tell us a little bit about maybe some of the challenges you faced and how you've overcome those along the way.
Challenges in business range from every single thing that you can think of that your body can possibly go through. So there's like mental challenges about dealing with people that, dealing with relationships, maybe relationships gone sour and stuff like that. There's one of those aspects. You learn a lot about yourself and people through that process. There's the financial stuff. It's a huge financial risk. Figuring out how to, essentially my goal from the beginning was to figure out how to just replace my teacher pay.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to do that and still help maintain my household. The financial risk is always top of mind when building a business, for sure. And then there's issues that arise to the heart. And that's, I think, my biggest obstacle in all of this so far is finding out how to balance my time working on my business and my time with my family, with my kids. And that's been my biggest struggle. We talked about how important it is to show up.
Totally.
And stream every day. I'm streaming 40 hours a week right now, at least. We're talking about how important it is to show up at all the events and network. And I'm traveling 6, 8 10 times a year sometimes to make sure I'm at all these events. And just figuring out how to balance that time with them has been the hardest thing. And also, it becomes scary. It becomes like, okay, what if the business fails and I just spent 2 years focusing on this and my kids are now, I actually thought about that last night. I'm like, okay, I think if I give this like 2 more years, I'll be really at a place where I can let go a little bit. And I'm thinking, hey, my son's going to be 7.
Yeah.
I got to figure something out before then. I can't let him be 7 and continue this way. So, well, that's a big part of it, but I wouldn't trade my experiences in the past 2.5, 3 years for anything because it's helped me grow so much as a person. I think it's going to make me a better parent moving forward and just
that's what we're resting on. And those are all valid things. And that's part of entrepreneurship in any sort of vertical, right? Is overcoming those challenges and dealing with a lot of time put in. And sometimes there's not a return to get out, at least when you're starting. So, I think those are all really valid points as to how you've just tried to help compartmentalize. And hopefully as you continue to grow your team, you can pull back a little bit as far as the on-camera time and some of the other sort of hands-on business stuff and find that balance, right? Because it is all about balance. And I think at the end of the day, we get lost in a lot of the specifics and the, oh my gosh, I have this huge to-do list. But we need to take a better step back and look at the big picture and say, hey, look at all this I've accomplished, right? And how can I carve out some more time to do the other things that are important to me with that work-life balance? And so that'll all come in time. But, until then, you got to just keep pushing hard. And the good news is that you're seeing the success for it, right? It gets really hard when you're putting it all in and there's not the return, but you are getting that return. So that's really exciting.
I want to touch on that a little bit too, though. It's like seeing the return, I feel, is something like, I don't want to say that I manifested, but it's like expecting a return to begin with it's not a healthy place to start.
Totally.
I'm telling you right now, I'm telling myself like 2 years from now, maybe I'll be there. I'm literally telling you, maybe I'll be there. I'm not sure.
Right.
But that's not the goal. The goal is to constantly be growing. And I'll think about the long term a couple times to like really wrap my mind around it. But I don't know. And I'm not going to stop if I don't get to a certain place at one point. I'm just always going to keep trying to grow.
Getting better every day and putting 100% effort in is all you can do, right? Like the rest of it will fall into place. But I think it's the passion of you being a collector and of you being a caring person and of you caring about your community you're building. And those are the things that are making you successful, right? And so having a positive mindset, not a cocky one saying that you will get to this places, but that having that positive mindset's huge, and I think that's part of who you are and why you're able to get where you are today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words.
Oh, of course. So speaking sort of about where you're going, I know you touched upon it a little bit. Do you have any specific goals for MamaBreaks and like where you hope to take the company in the next 2 to 4 years? Like, what does that look like to you?
Oh, so I love that question because the truth is I don't know.
Okay.
There's so many different things that I want to do that I have in my mind and envisioned for MamaBreaks. But what I've learned the past few years is that you kind of just have to take opportunities as they come and, trust your gut and work your ass off. So, I mean, that's what I've been doing for the past few years. True. Yeah. So I'm excited. I have some stuff that I'm working on that I think could turn into something pretty soon. But like I said, the goal is always to just get better and work hard and take opportunities as they come. So
yeah, I love that. So I appreciate you taking time with us. We're coming to a close of your time. I want to be respectful of your day, but I just want to make sure, obviously you've given us a ton of like nuggets and tips and tricks, but is there any sort of golden piece of advice that you could tell aspiring collectors or entrepreneurs on how to be successful or what you think is sort of most important for them to take away from it?
Definitely. It's cliche, but always, you're never going to go wrong doing what you love, collecting what you love, and letting yourself just feel it with all your heart, no matter what anybody says.
That's awesome.
You're not going to go wrong. Lead with your heart.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's what I'm doing today. That's what I think all of us are doing who come on this podcast. And the big part about it is all like, how does that passion come through and then influence a business, which is so awesome. So I guess, before I let you go, are you going to be at the National this year? I assume yes, but
100%. Yeah.
Are you walking or do you have a booth or what's your plan?
I'm walking.
Okay.
My plan is to cause ruckus. Just go around.
I can't wait to see you. That'll be fun. I will definitely be walking around and we'll have to connect in person. Do you have any other sort of upcoming projects or anything that you're excited about that you can share with the audience?
Most definitely. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but I'm flying out to Buffalo to film some content and do some breaks with the David Adams team.
Sweet. That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Right. You've been on quite the tour too. I've seen you you were with Leighton and you guys had some good stuff and you've been going on the breaking tour.
Yeah. I mean, it's turning into that. It kind of just started with, hey, Rich, I really want to go learn from you and I want to get together and do something special for my community. And they have a huge Star Wars following. So I thought we could make it happen. Yeah. And that's where it came from, doing something for my people. And now it's becoming like, hey, I can do something for my people with a bunch of other companies that I respect and I look up to. So that's what it's going to be. And I'm excited.
That's so cool. I'm sorry to ask another question, but I think it's really important. You mentioned Rich and these other companies like David Adams and stuff, but having a mentor and others to look up to, talk to the audience just real quick about what that means to you and sort of how that's helped you, grow along this journey.
I think huge part of my growth has been my ability to be vulnerable with those people, kind of put myself in positions where I can talk to them. And I've learned so much, It's like I tell people, I give people a challenge. Like next time somebody asks you how you are, be honest. And you never know the nugget that you're going to get from someone just by being honest about your situation and realizing how their mind works and how they do things. I've learned so much from Rich Leighton. I've learned so much from Jeff Wilson. I've learned so much from Michael Rubin, Jeff Gordon, so many incredibly smart and sharp people that I've met in this industry, passionate. So I'm so grateful to all of them. And I think having a mentor, just having people that you can talk to every now and then about what's going on. And again, coming from a mindset of I want to help as much as possible too is crucial.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I will let you leave us with a shameless plug. Do you want to tell our audience where they can find you and how they can follow MamaBreaks and all that good stuff?
Yes, of course. You can follow me on Instagram at MamaBreaks. That's where I post all most of my content. YouTube, we've been working on, so it's definitely a lot of content you can go binge at MamaBreaks on YouTube, and we are live 6 to 7 days a week on Fanatics Live. We do baseball, Star Wars, soccer, Marvel, WWE breaks, most of anything of the cool stuff that you can think of. It's mostly me breaking, sometimes some of my team, and it's just a fun time. So come hang out. That's awesome. That's great. Well, Stephanie, this has been an amazing conversation and really inspiring. I hope that obviously this can influence any sort of collector, but also, women, minority people, you guys are influencing hopefully lots of little girls, throughout the country as yourself and the other women in the space, continue to go and come to the forefront. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast. Thank you for sharing all this knowledge. And honestly, just keep on crushing it. I'm so excited to see what the future holds for you. So thank you. Thank you so much, Zach. I'm so excited to see you venture into something you're passionate about too. And I'm so honored to be a guest. Thanks. Well, have a great one. And I will see you at the National, Stephanie. See you soon. All right. Take care. You guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. I hope that you learned something new and were able to find some inspiration. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and of course, tell your friends. The more you can help spread the word, it means the world to me, as hopefully we can continue to build this community here on Hobby Hustle. So keep collecting, keep hustling, and we'll see you next week on Hobby Hustle, where collecting passion and business collide. Thanks. Hobby Hustle is brought to you by Collector Creative. If you're a collectible brand or company looking for help with marketing, branding, design, or development, head over to collectorcreative.com and drop Zach a line. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at collector_creative. And be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time on Hobby Hustle, where collecting passion and business collide.